Firstly, welcome to a special edition of Behind the Wheel, Behind the Longbow. We now have the two co-founders out of the three. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Mark Tapscott, I'm COO of Longbow. We are missing Jenny, as you say. Little Jenny here, this is the best representation we have of her. She's away at the moment, so she's our third co-founder.
And Daniel Davey, CEO.
Yeah, amazing. Great to have you here. So today we're going to go into vision of the company, who are Longbow. We'll break down into engineering a little bit and we'll have a conversation around a few interesting topics, right? So let's start. Longbow, where did the idea come from?
The name, the company, the car.
The name we'll start with.
You got a good one for this.
Getting a name is very hard
Yeah.
to start with. So websites, trademarks, everything's really hard. And in automotive, it needs to fit. And we are a very British brand. And that's we've always really wanted that to come through. And so Longbow is the intersection of almost man and machine. It's a symbiosis, like a longbow is nothing about an archer is nothing about a longbow. And a longbow is a beautiful crafted piece of technology, really, if you think about what it was back in the day. And so that's our drivers are our archers and our car is our longbow. That's really where the name comes from.
And in terms of what you're trying to achieve in the market, it's a bit of a high level question, but the market's in a huge need for a successful British firm. What's the approach that you're going to take?
You're right, that's a big question.
Yeah,
we'll go into it in more detail, but I think as a top level, we're not just about creating a particular car or two cars, the Speedster and the Roadster, or the car that follows that, the coupe. For us, it's about creating a whole new segment of the industry, the featherweight electric vehicle.
Yeah.
And that's a platform that we have underneath all those vehicles that just changes the tide at the moment of where automotive is going, which is this bloat. It's a pandemic we've had now of extra weight, extra excess, these things that you just don't need in a car being put into every single vehicle. All these features that marketing teams, boards are all suggesting need to go in a car to appeal because they're doing this brand valuation against each other's product, rather than actually pairing it back to what can or should a sports car really be. And I think when one of our board advisors, Mike Fluitt, who's the former CEO of McLaren, super guy, he's got some great advice, obviously, as you would expect. And one of the things he did at McLaren very early on was spoke to every single one of his customers. And he said, if you can do that, you'll learn what you need to be building. So we did. Within the first month of launching, we spoke to all the customers that had placed their reservations for the Speedster and Roadster. And the things that they wanted in the car was actually far less than the things we planned to put in the car. And I think that was just a real kind of moment where we've been working on this for 5 or so years, thinking this is what people want and what the industry needs. But it was that first moment when we heard from customers, actually they want something even further towards that lightweighting. So that's what we're doing. The featherweight electric vehicle is what we're really kind of creating and pushing.
Regarding, you've hit a huge milestone recently. We'll go straight into that if that's okay. Do you want to talk through where you've taken it from a piece of paper, blank piece of paper, into where it is now?
Yeah, so there's only one time in business where you can build your first product. And it's the hardest thing. So 0 to 1 is the hardest thing to do, right? Because from there, if you can build 1, can you build 2? You can build 2, can you build 3? But that's 0 to 4. Yeah.
5?
5, yeah. So, that building the recipe for the first vehicle, building it and then making it good is what you need to do. And we've done that in 6 months, which is the fastest anyone's ever done it. And so normally in 6 months, what you'd have is someone done some sketches, they'd have walked up to the top floor with the executives, they'd have all milled around in between board meetings, given some direction, softened it, and it would have become a homogeneous blob by the end of it. And by the end of 18 months, your marketing team's taken over, and what you have there is something approaching a driving vehicle. What we've built now has a custom chassis, custom battery modules, substantial amount of that carries forward into production. It drives, and exterior, it's representative of the final vehicle as well. And it's the first vehicle that's really been fully 3D printed outside and significant amount inside from scratch, right? And that's all been done in the UK. So the point you made earlier around, maybe industry in decline, I don't necessarily agree fully. I think the industry is in decline, but it's not because there's a lack of capability and not because there's a lack of companies. I think, unfortunately, if you look at the UK automotive industry, it's all driven by boards. You know,
Yes.
I think we have this like romanticism that there's someone crafting away in the back of an Aston or a McLaren or others, but it's not. It's cars by committee. And when you add committees and you add all these different stakeholders, and the bigger the company, the more stakeholders, the more flaws you have in your building, right? They need to agree before a car comes off the line. Then it's going to add cost, it's going to add complexity, it's going to add time, it's going to add things that shouldn't be in there, bloat. We don't have that, right? We own the company.
Yeah.
So that's the car we want to design. Why would we disagree? No, I appreciate your disagreement, but that's the car we're building. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Right, and we can just move super quick on things. Like design, I think we're supposed to go through 8 sprints.
Over 12 months or so.
Yeah, and we got to like sprint 3, done. No, guys, we need to do all this.
Yeah.
No, we own the company, we're doing that.
Yeah.
And that's the car you saw yesterday, right? So there's no compromise. So one of our principles is simplify the design, engineering, manufacturing process without compromising.
Yeah.
And you can do that, but it has to be elite, you have to move quick, you have to just get decisional, right?
If we look at the FEV market, do you want to explain like what's the target audience? Because you're so close to your customers, right? You just made that point before. Who are your buyers from your perspective, and where you're going to be positioned, and how does that grow out? Because it's going to be a boom of a new FEV electric market. You're going to shape that. So where do you see that going?
Yeah. Well, I guess there isn't a market. That's the point, right?
Yeah,
That we're
exactly.
having to create this whole new segment that doesn't exist. And I think when we think about who our customers are, we don't have to think. We know them. And we met 200 or so of them last night and drank into the early morning with a lot more of them. And it's such a broad spectrum, right? I think the appeal of something that is lightweight and a sports car, regardless of its powertrain, right? I think this whole point of it's an electric sports car, it is, but it's a sports car first and foremost. Its powertrain is almost irrelevant as long as you have the engagement, the enjoyment, and we talk about it having to have 3 kind of core pillars to make a great sports car, whether it's electric or otherwise. And that first one is lightness. It has to be lightweight, and that's not about just being fast. It's about purity in everything you do. You know, you add lightness, as Colin Chapman would say from Lotus. You are better in the corners. You're better in how it feels. You're reducing the amount of materials you're using. You're reducing the size of the battery. You're reducing the wear and tear on the vehicle. Everything is better when you reduce the weight on the car. The second is, we call it theatre. So it's in the car. It's not just noise. So I think a lot of people's views of sports cars is, you know, they feel something because the sound of the engine. And it's not just that, right? It's the engagement you have with the car. So selecting gears rather than just pressing buttons, for example. The feedback you get from the car. When you sit it and turn it on, you always talk about a V8, right? When it starts up, there is no need in most Porsches, when you sit in them, you turn it on and it does that whole revving up. It doesn't do that really for many other reasons other than that it feels good. It's that theatre. So why can't you do that with an electric powertrain? You know, maybe the car does something interesting to let you know it's actually turned on, rather than pressing a button and am I turned on? And then the final one is beauty. Very hard to get right, of course. The design team have worked not as long as they wanted to on it, as Daniel just explained, but they nailed it, right? So what we wanted to do was create a car that wasn't a pastiche of a 60s beautiful car, because that's where we took the inspiration from. When we sat down and said, what should the car be? It's, what are the most beautiful cars to us? And we disagreed on a few, but there were some that we came together on and said, yeah, that's the era, that's the kind of style, this kind of curvaceous nature. But if you do that, you end up with just something from the past that you're trying to recreate again today. So then you have to do something modern as well. But then if you don't go too modern, you end up with something from the Jetsons that nobody really wants, and it's this futuristic thing. So bringing those two together, and I guess probably the best example is not with Lego, but with the car, that you kind of have this front end, which is the skin, and it's that sort of 60s that's stretched over the car. And it's also, which camera? It's like a bow that kind of comes down in the bow shape as well that's being pulled. So there's a whole load of iconography that goes through the car. And then the rear end in that different colour, that's more of the modern aesthetic. So we call it the duality, where you have Frankenstein, Jekyll and Hyde, right, either side, to try and pull that together. So you make something that is both modern and classically beautiful. So third pillar, beauty. The measure of that is you finish driving, you get out the car, you lock it, and you want to go back and have one more look at it before you head back inside. Those are our 3 kind of pillars of a sports car, none of which involve electric.
Yeah, very interesting. So we've seen the car, car's stunning, right? I can put my hands up. It's absolutely stunning. So I've seen it. I've put myself into the engineering community, the actual automotive talent community, and you say, okay, there's been a few brands where they've got an amazing concept ready, they've got their first vehicle as such, and when they then put the foot down to scale it, the production costs, the cost comparison really hard, but then it also affects the engineering teams behind it and the commercial teams behind it. So do you want to talk through like your timeline of where you're trying to go, where you're trying to take Longbow into a brand, and then we can obviously have a discussion of how we actually make that a success, or you plan to make that a success without or overcoming the other challenges that other brands have faced as such.
Yeah, I mean, we shared a manifesto in March, which lays out exactly what we plan to do. It's secret, but you can find it everywhere on the internet. Step one is Speedster.
Yeah.
So 150 vehicles limited run. It's important to keep it limited because we need to get those on the road, and we need to make them very desirable. And we've done both of those things. They're very desirable. From that, you build and iterate that platform into the Roadster, which is series production. Additionally, you add a sub-brand. So we'll have a North America sub-brand, which is effectively a top hat or a derivative of the engineering work that's gone into Longbow vehicles. We then move into the coupe, which is the 2+2 segment, and then we look at iterating into other vehicle segments with that platform. So that's the plan, and that sees us with 10,000 vehicles a year by 2030. So that's the plan. Now, more specifically, the phase we're in right now, as we said before, you need to sprint and run at each of those things at full pace, full energy, and that's not taking holidays, right? And that's not a 9 to 5. And if that's the approach, it doesn't gel with our program. Like I haven't worked 9 to 5 since I worked at Tesla in 2010. I haven't.
Did you work 9 to 5 in Tesla?
No. Oh, sorry, before. Even before then, I don't think I did. Yeah, you can't. And every day you have to bring everything you've got.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah.
And there's some times where maybe like 95% energy is okay.
Yeah.
But you know, if you're not getting to the end of the day and you are rinsed in every possible way, no energy, no mental capacity, you haven't brought enough to the table. And certainly when you get to the end of that and that final sprint, if you're not doing that. And so one of the challenges we've observed, because we've spent our whole life in Silicon Valley companies, right? Yeah. And Silicon Valley companies don't get there because they're nice and they play table tennis. They get there because they're ruthless, because they focus on efficiency, and you work with the smartest people you ever work with. One of the challenges, frankly, we've seen coming in, being in the UK automotive industry, is that lack of like va-va-voom, right? Or that lack of, I worked till 6 today for one day, that 1 week.
Yeah.
Great. Then if you want to go and do beautiful, incredible things, you're not going to do it. You're just not. And I'm not advocating that you need to, work-life balance is important, and it is, but there are times where you don't have balance. You can't strive for balance in all days. There are times in programs like this, if you want to deliver a car in 6 months, you're not going to have balance. That's a function, not a bug. Well, it's a feature, not a bug, right? And so, it's something we've observed, and to get to where we want to be, everyone's like, that's difficult, it can't be done, right? It can't be done with that attitude. If you start with that attitude, it can't be done, versus doing everything you can to make it work, and then maybe deliver it in 7 months, right? Or if we work as hard as we can and everyone brings that attitude to the program, and we say the end of 2026, and you fall slightly short and you come in at January 2027, that's okay. Yeah. But if you start the program slow, and when you start, it's a sprint, right? The gun's gone off, you're running. You're not easing yourself into the program, getting your head around it, getting your desk organised. Every day you have to bring that intensity. And that's what we bring. And you have to, otherwise you end up where all the other companies end up, right?
I think, like your point, right? I don't think we're seeing individuals not putting that effort in and working really hard. There are some incredibly talented people here that are working super, super hard. It seems more at the company level where it's this kind of UK thing of now, let's take a break, let's slow down. And maybe the press and the industry are all kind of pushing this narrative of we're not doing what we can, but there are some individuals out there that really are making great things happen.
The UK is interesting on that point. You've got high-level motorsport, you've got a lot of FE, F1 obviously. That is a really successful talent pool. Yeah. And then you've got the big OEMs where things are getting ingrained with a lot slower, long-operated processes ultimately. And then you've got a disconnect on strategy with some companies, And that's the hold up. It's like the first time I've seen it for a long time where you've got some like really talented people and there's a question mark now to say, should I stay in this industry? And the advice is coming, what's actually happening with our industry. That's unheard of. I've been doing it for just over 10 years. So this is needed. But then I really like your point about, okay, if you're going to make this a success, I think we need to bring, we could classify it as Silicon Valley work ethic, but we need to bring that back into a ramp up of production cars as well, not just in motorsport, not just making an F1 car. So I think that if we question the success, how are we going to make it a success? It's the right people making the right impact and everything's judged off impact, right? I know you've got your own ethos. I don't know if you want to explain that of what it's built on from a speed perspective.
I'm going to jump on that, but I think to your point, first, like control, really, really important. I think we've seen a lot of great British brands lose their board control and lose their ability to work on the things they want to work on. I mean, we've travelled to a few great British automotive companies over the last year, and the people working there know exactly what they should do. They know where they should be. They know what products people want, but because of maybe the non-UK control that those companies have at a board level, they're being pushed in a different direction to build products that maybe meet other market needs. And it's really holding that talent back. As you say, we've got, there's a reason why most Formula One and Formula E teams are all based here, because the talent does exist here.
Really does.
They're just maybe not allowed to do the things that they know they should be doing.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, I mean, I touched on it before, right? So our mission is change how the earth feels about sports cars. The first phase is you simplify the design, manufacturing, engineering process without compromising. Then it's a focus on beauty, authenticity and connectedness, not stats. So as a company, we don't talk about stats because people don't care about stats. Marketing teams care about stats. And then the final one is add lightness through decentralization and a relentless focus on execution. Don't procrastinate. Don't build empires that procrastinate, right? And even at companies at Tesla and Lucid later on, you saw, I was employee 650, then came back as employee 33,000. And as employee 33,000, it become an empire that procrastinates, right? As employee 650, it's not. You make decisions immediately and you move forward. And so we never want to hit that point, because that's going to be your competitive, like diseconomies of scale, right? Your competitive disadvantage kicks in when you add lots of layers and you add a level of, you need structure, but you add all these kind of control points in there and you start letting the tail wag the dog.
Obviously, coming to market as a new OEM, what's the model internally from like a high-level integrator? Are you going to follow maybe like a Rimac where it's all internal component development? Do you want to share a little bit of insight of what's happening behind the scenes as much as you can?
Tesla doesn't have IP, they have cost of goods sold.
Okay.
Right, if Tesla want to build one motor, they've got to build a gigafactory that builds that one motor. So like one motor is $1 billion, and then motor number 2 is like $1 billion and 3,000, right? And the time it takes you to build that and develop it and start manufacturing it, and it tied into your vehicle program, you can't pivot, right? Right now, if you look at the automotive industry in the UK and elsewhere, and you look at, I wouldn't even say grassroots, I'd say grassroots plus, so technology that's ready to go out into the market for customers. There's incredible battery suppliers, there's incredible motor suppliers, inverter suppliers, like additive manufacturing, like every area you look at, there are incredible businesses that have either got there on their own or they've had great support from the government to get to a level of manufacturing readiness. But there are no off-takers, right? Because all the other, as you've seen, right, all the other car companies in the sports car space are retrenching from EV. They're moving away from it, and they're not big enough to go and be involved in a 1 million car a year vehicle program either. So you've got people who could that have the right volumes to support us, great technology, and we would be crazy to try and develop technology on our own, because we can't compete with a Magna, right, or a Lucid or a Tesla on EV powertrains. And doing that just adds, building a car is hard. If you have to build a car company and a motor company and a software company and a battery company to build a car, you're going from riding a horse to riding a horse across rough ground to trying to hit an apple while it's raining and you're jumping. It's already difficult. Don't add complexity because you don't need to. And also what that gives you is the ability to pivot. Because if you build from the beginning, like having a flexible architecture and flexible platform where you can use different suppliers allows you to pivot when the technology changes. And we're expecting some serious technology changes in the next 5 years that will overtake Tesla. And so at a high level, we are the OEM, right? We are always accountable for the integration because customers won't care. Right? If car breaks down, we say, not our fault, it's integrator number 3. Right? Or that was the battery manufacturers. They will always, always, always come to us. And if there are any issues with the car, we are always accountable. As much as we can kick that upstream, legally, we are accountable to the customer. And so we can't hand that off, right? It's the most important thing, is delivering a coherent product that's the promises we've made. And the best way to do that is to keep flexibility on things like all your key components. Because it may sound great and may sound great to investors, I'm going to go and build a factory for 100 million to develop motors, but you don't need to.
Vertical integration is an absolute trap. So that means you have to work with suppliers. And again, talking about the UK, some of the best suppliers are here, of course. And so working with them, we have to work on the plans for the 100-year car. So we have the Century Accords. And this is a way of working with the suppliers that we have to make sure that the car we're building lasts for 100 years. How do you do that? Well, first of all, there are two parts of it. One is engineering and the other is design. Engineering, actually, there's a pretty clear path to doing that. So when you're thinking about the kind of technology, the batteries that are in there, how do you move with the times and how do you change that technology in the next 20, 50, 70 years? You need to engineer that into the vehicle. And that's fairly straightforward. That's a process. The design side is also very difficult, right? Trying to design a car that will last for 100 years is something very different. But when you look at combining the engineering side with the design, and you have 3D printing in certain areas, that means that if there's damage to a certain part of the car, maybe you can chop that piece of the car up, put it in a hopper, melt it down, add some virgin material and print out that same piece of the car, but updated for the 25 years down the road that you're in that car. So that way you can have a car that hopefully can stay updated and on the road for those 100 years.
It's a very interesting point. I think the conditions of the European market in particular, if we break down those components, motor, battery technology, BMS technology, you've got a lot of businesses who are on the brink and they're actually waiting for a high volume production. So they're ready to go into it, but they need a trusted OEM and they're getting, they've not had the best experience, to be quite frank, and it's halting the industry. So we're not talking about OEMs, it's like halting the tier ones and they're like screaming for it. And like you said, all the businesses are pivoting away and going back to combustion engine a little bit. So the fact that you can go on a journey of bringing, you're not just taking a journey of making Longbow a success, you're bringing the industry back up and then making this new segment, that's obviously incredible. There is a caveat. So the caveat that I would throw to you would be Volta trucks is a good example. They had everything lined up and then their electric powertrain provider fell and let them down and it crippled them. How do you prevent that from happening?
Concentration risk, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you need to have a spare and another spare, right? And a contingency to the spare, and then the Alamo as well. Yeah, but also you need to kick that supplier as hard as you physically can, as often as you can, from as early as you can. So if 12 months out, you need to not just, are you going to be okay here? Yeah, we'll be fine. Okay, I want a full DD of everything you're doing. I want to see your funding plan. I want to see how much capital you have in the bank. I want to see your MRL state, your TRL state, and if they don't give it to you, you're out, right? You have to be ruthless. And then month 2, same thing. Okay, you said you'd be here next month. Where are you? And that's 12 months out. You can't, and that's the problem, right? I listened to a speech once from a guy who was the lawyer behind the 2012 Olympics. So he was effectively put all the legal structure and all the framework in place for the 2012 Olympics. And 2012 Olympics are hailed as one of the most successful. They went without a single hitch, didn't have any problems. He was like, that's because of all the contracts and legal work that was put in place 4 years and in the run-up to it that preempted any of the problems that would come, secured them and then checked it regularly. And if people didn't meet it, you pivoted. So if you want to hit your timeline, hope is not a strategy. You have to kick every part, critical parts. If a clip supplier falls over, great. You find another clip, right? Certain cable suppliers is fine. But you need to, if a cable supply is falling down, you need to know it 2 months before you need the cable, right? Not on the day, this company went bust, or they can't hit the quality. So the way you run it and just being ruthless on that, you have to. Because I bet you could have seen that coming.
Yes.
and not being sat in an office doing that either. I think
Okay, very interesting.
we've experienced this, right?
Yeah.
We, at the start of the vehicle we've just delivered that you saw last night, we knew exactly where each cell was of the batteries. We knew how many welders they had, which one was working, which was going here, just to build the pack. And we go out there and we see that with our eyes to make sure that's happening. Now, obviously it doesn't scale for going to much higher volumes, but it's that attitude and that direction we're going to take into the program to make sure it's there.
Yeah. From a industry perspective, and I've been, out my own words, I've been saying this a lot, like we're on the next software revolution, what does that look like? There's a lot of problems in the market from a cost perspective associated to software. I think a couple of things would be the blend between a company going, okay, we're doing the EV world blended with the automated world, and then it creates a really complex EE architecture, spirals into a lot of cost. With a vehicle like this, what's your approach to software, and how do you stop software crippling the cost and the bottom line?
If you want to build a car, we talked about this earlier, right? An autonomous car that picks you up at home, syncs with your diary, drives you to work, you get out, it parks itself, then your layer of your software complexity is huge. So from the beginning, I think simplifying what the car does inherently just simplifies the software that's needed. And then there's another piece, is what are suppliers bringing to the table, right? So if you want to put a Bosch motor in your car, it's £1 million to change a line of code, right? So it is what it is, and if you want to change anything, it's £1 million. And on the other end, if you've got a new motor supplier that's looking to really partner and find someone who's an off-taker for a technology they built, they'll work with you really like as much as they can to ensure that their modules are integrating with your architecture. So almost selecting who you're working with and who you're not working with can reduce the cost. So one is passing down what the car needs to do in the beginning, passes down the complexity and cost of software you have. Right, stability is important, but it's holding suppliers accountable, but they need to play ball. Because if something goes wrong, you don't need everyone pointing fingers, and you don't need everyone, if something's going wrong on a Saturday or Sunday or a Monday afternoon or whenever it is morning, you don't need people pointing fingers. You need people to come together and be solution orientated and collaborate on it. And that's ultimately what you're going to have. So at every stage, going from blank piece of paper to production car, you're going to have challenges when you're implementing a software layer, because we're not vertically integrated. And even then you have challenges. So it's about finding the right suppliers in there, the right suppliers, the right level where they're willing to support you at the beginning, right? Because later on, when you're getting into FMVSS, European Small Series programs, then you need a lot more bespoke integration. You need a lot more features and functionality just to hit those homologation standards. But in the beginning, for a lightweight sports car like the Speedster, specifically, you don't need a lot of complexity, but you do need people to play ball. And if they're playing ball at that stage with a small program without complexity, and they're showing their partners, then they're the right people to evolve into the next phase. Yeah. And if they don't, then they're not, right? Again, it's back to the earlier point, kicking things really hard. Yeah. One thing to kick is, okay, what are you bringing to the table? How are you using our program to develop your tech and help us bring our program forward? But how well do you play with others is also.
And I think what you said there is absolutely right. It's that people have conflated electrification with autonomy. Yeah. And this kind of detraction from driving and all these features. They're two separate things, right? You can have an electrification program that doesn't have all of that, and the software then becomes more about how do you make electrification more fun and the driving experience rather than taking away from the driving experience. Right. So then at that point we become the chef's analogy, right? You've got all these ingredients that are coming in from the hardware and certain software modules. How do we, as the OEM chef, kind of cook that together and make it a different experience without all the autonomy and everything else?
Yeah. On the other side of the fence, we look at manufacturing, production. That's changing at a rapid rate. We can talk about robotics, we can talk about all sorts, but are you doing anything different? Have you got a different approach at all when it comes to actually producing these vehicles?
And we were hand built in the UK for the Speedster. Amazing. I think that's a really important part, that the crafts we've talked about, the talent that exists here, using that. But not in a super traditional way where we're looking back to old techniques, but we're kind of adopting a process that we have honed as a nation over many years and apply it with new tech. I think probably design is the best example of that, where the design team have built this car entirely in VR. And that's one of the reasons we managed to move so quickly. And I think a lot of the criticism maybe we'd hear from the industry if we were to have people, designers here right now, would be, you have to have clay. And I think actually I was listening to something Callum was talking about the other day, which is you don't naturally maybe need that anymore. Because clay is there for the human touch, which is really important. But when you now see the quality of the technology you have and the way that the new designers have learned to operate in that space, they are still having that human hands-on touch almost, but just in a 3D virtual environment. So I think we've been joking, haven't we, that the car that we have seen in the last sort of month or so that's now built and in the composite, it doesn't feel like we haven't seen it before, because it's exactly what we've seen in VR for the last 6 months or so. So it's just now in an augmented or real reality rather than virtual. So it's those old crafts that we've learned over many years being applied in new technologies, faster ways, and helping us get to this point.
And there's just so much, additive manufacturing. So this is the first car that was 3D printed, and that's still a nascent technology.
We had to build the printer, right? We had to build a printer big enough to be able to do the whole body panels and everything for this.
But it's still, in many ways, really 3D printing is still in its infancy. It's still on an exponential growth curve. And you look at like polyjet printing, all these kind of technologies that are still coming out. And everyone always thinks, okay, 3D printing, they think big body panels, but it's clips, right? So in the loop that we're running from deciding on componentry, you add a 3D additive manufacturing loop. So, okay, we need this. Well, can that be 3D printed? Yes, then 3D print it. And it's kind of green to red. So green is, you should 3D print this all day long, and red is, I wouldn't do that. And if it's green, you do it. If it's in the middle, you have a conversation about the pros and cons. But when we talk about a 100-year car, what that means is, in 100 years, if that clip fails and the supplier went bankrupt 50 years ago, your body shop or your service location has a 3D printer and prints the clip. So you create a recipe, and it doesn't even have to be a body shop. Someone can print it at home. We don't want to make money on it. So the more things that you create that have recipes that can be printed later on, the more the car survives, the easier it is to maintain, and the easier it is to build it. Because in a factory then, we're not waiting for, clip supply went bust or they're late with the shipment. We're printing it in time, and you're adding additive manufacturing. It's just in time, but it's just in time from the printer over there, not just in time from a 3PL that's costing you money on a pallet basis. So you're reducing your complexity. And if the clip fails, you take the clip, you shred it into a new clip. So you're almost like reincarnating it. So a lot of the 3D printing now, you can literally take the component. So if a clip breaks in half, you just take that clip, put it in the top of the printer, or put it into a shredder, shreds it into pellets, and you're printing from the same clip. So your circularity as well is just something different. And that's just
Reincarnation.
It will completely change how you manufacture, because there will be a point where the quality is there, and I don't think it's far away, where you can, we 3D printed the front clamshell on this thing, right? It's big, right? Told it couldn't be done. Don't tell us we can't do something, right? So we 3D printed that, and that's at the limit of where the tech is now. But in a year, in 3 years, and 5 years, it won't be at the limit. That'll be easily achievable.
I totally agree with you. And that industry, the 3D printing market, it's really starting to expand. We're seeing it. So the fact that you're on that curve already is unbelievable, really. Yeah.
Makes sense.
If 2 questions here, so we'll just very broad from an engineering perspective. But if we had to condense and say, getting the engineer's mindset, what is the engineering challenge behind Longbow? How do you answer that?
We've set a challenge to everyone that we work with who's building the car, which is for the prototypes through to production. Every single day, they have to, as an individual, lose 1 gram from the program that they're involved in. So over time, you combine that by all the people that are working on this program, and everything that we're doing doesn't rely on some new technology or something that's super nascent or that we have to create ourselves. It just resolves around absolute dedication and focus on lightweightedness and creating something without compromise that needs to be exactly what it needs to be from what the customers have told us they want it to be. So telling them every day, lose a gram, that's a different focus to reducing the bill of materials by a certain amount at the end of the program. It's a dedicated focus.
Yeah, it's not an engineering challenge, it's a program challenge, right? It's everything we're taking has been done before in one way or another, right? It's how you're combining that and curating it and making sure that it's hitting hitting the targets you set at the bill of materials, hitting the target you set, bill of materials weight, and then hitting the kind of parameter. Like we put out there, like 0-60, 3.5 seconds, 275 mile range, top speed 125. That's what you have to hit, and we set the timeline. That doesn't change, right? So it's a program management challenge to make sure that you're achieving that versus any specific engineering challenge, right?
You've got engineering, the team, program manager, the whole team. It's quite clear to see straight away. I've only been speaking to you for a while. In short bursts, quite easy to see what you're both made of a little bit. How do you define the Longbow person? The other way I frame this is like, if you were to go to market with job descriptions, who's the person behind the job description to make this business a success?
We hire based on a few things, don't we?
I mean, generally, traits-based hiring, right? So intelligence, character, coachability, drive, experience. That's how we'd measure someone in that order, always. It's someone asking themselves a question, right? It's 6 p.m. and I'll give you a working example of this that happened on the program recently, right? It's 5 p.m. We're not where we want to be today, and tomorrow the car needs to go somewhere. It's important, and it's your daughter's birthday. What are you doing? So this person went home, daughter's tea party, I think 4-year-old, came back covered in glitter at 10 p.m. and carried through till 2 a.m. Is that innate within you, right?
Yeah.
Would you do that because it's so important for you to get it right, and you have a sense of pride in it, and probably just a little bit broken, that those kind of, you need to do that?
Yeah.
Or would you look and say, no, that's not for me? And if you say that's for you, but in your mind you're like, do you know what, in that that's not the culture I want to be a part of. Yeah. You're not fit. And it's not every day, right? We're not making people come home and work every day till 2 a.m.
Yeah.
But a deadline's a deadline.
Yeah.
A delivable's a deliverable.
Yeah.
It does not move. Yeah. What changes is how well you predict the challenges and anticipate them. And when 11th hour's challenges come in, how are you dealing with them? And do you think that, I'm up for that, that sounds good, does that get your adrenaline going? Or are you thinking, nah, that's not me, I like a 9 to 5 and I need an hour lunch break because I'm conditioned for that? If it's the latter, don't bother applying, don't bother speaking to us, right? You won't be a fit and you won't last long.
And now there's a nice layer of glitter over our inverter from the car as well.
That's a real story.
Yeah,
that's a real story.
We're mission driven,
Yeah.
right? And I think, we've talked a lot about our past, sort of, Tesla, Lucid, these other companies, and they're all very much mission driven. And I think the people that you work with there hold the same beliefs, and you are working because you have, or you want to achieve mastery, autonomy, purpose. Yeah. I think that's what we really see, that that particular example there, he is the best that we think we've found in the industry to do this particular job. Yeah. And he autonomously chose to, I want to do this, I need to do my family thing, but I will come back and get this done. It wasn't any of us telling him that that's what needs to happen, because he had purpose. He wants to see this car be as successful and do the things that he personally set for himself as his targets. So mastery, autonomy and purpose within the team is what we will always look for.
Yeah, it's not micromanagement, right? It is, you don't have time and energy to micromanage people. You need to manage yourself and do great things because you want to. It's built into your systems, right?
Brilliant. It's going to be the new year, isn't it? We're going to click our fingers. I don't know where this year's gone. I don't know how you guys feel. I bet it's even worse for you, to be quite frank. Going into the new year, what's the key milestones? And ultimately, how is, sit here this time next year, moving at the speed of light, of course, where do you want to be?
We're going to be announcing something really exciting over the next 2 months. We're going to be showing something very exciting in early January. Okay. And then we're going to be announcing something people wouldn't expect. It's incredible. It's a brand milestone for us in the next couple of months. And it's really cool. So that's the first thing. And then it's delivering the Speedster, right? That's it. So that's broken down to sub-milestones. Yeah. You're working through we built the first one, now it's moving into your second, third, fourth prototypes, developing all the componentry, developing those supplier relationships, and just being laser focused on delivering the car next year. Right? That's it. It's just more of the same, but you have to come out of the gates, straight out of the gates in January, right? It's there.
I think we're going to be in America as well,
Yeah.
at the start of next year.
Okay.
We are, of course, building here in the UK,
Yeah.
but we're not just about delivering here in the UK, it's export worldwide. We're creating a worldwide brand. You know, to change how the earth feels about sports cars, you have to be across the earth.
Yeah.
So North America is going to get some Longbow early next year.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing. We'll wrap it up with a question, and it's, you'll have your own plans, but if you're speaking to people, why join Longbow? It's a really open question, but what comes to mind straight away, if you have somebody in a room, why come and join, and maybe why come and join now?
Well, speed of lightness.
Okay.
I think when I look back at some of the most rewarding things I've done in my career, it's always been when I've achieved something that even I didn't think was possible. And that internal drive, but also the people around you to push you to beyond what you thought you could do, is exactly what's driven us to where we are today, and why we have the speed of lightness as our motto.
Yeah.
So if someone thinks that they want to maybe push themselves beyond what they've done before and create something that hopefully is genuinely exciting, I think if you're an automotive, you know, sports cars, hypercars, that's hopefully one of the most exciting things you can do, and to do that quicker than anyone else has done it, and to show the rest of the world that we can do that here, that's the kind of person I think we'd look for.
Yeah, you don't get. There are very few opportunities to ever be involved in a brand at this early stage. I mean, we were fortunate early at Tesla, early at Lucid, and it's been so rewarding for us in terms of experience we gained and the careers we've had. And we're looking to do that in sports cars, right? So we will hit our targets. The question is how difficult it's going to be for us, how many sleepless nights, but we're going to hit it, and people have a chance to be part of that. Really, like, how often do you have a chance to define something and really have a real meaningful impact, where if I didn't do that, it wouldn't be there. Very few people have that chance, right? You're not a cog, you're a piston.
Yeah.
You don't get a chance to be that very often, and Longbow offers that opportunity.
Glitter's not required, but it helps.
Yeah, on the inverter. Yeah. Listen, it's been an absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. I think you've already made huge success in delivering a programme or a car within 6 months. That is outrageous. I had the privilege of seeing that last night, and it was it was one of the best cars I've seen in the flesh. So
Thanks, Bryce.
it's been a pleasure having you on. I wish you every success. I don't think you don't need my wish. It's going to be a success, this, and I'm really looking forward to watching it shape and grow.
Cheers. Thank you. Thanks for having us.
No.